Chapter 16, Another Side of the Wife. This wave of interaction was unprecedentedly powerful. Fang Hao also experienced an unprecedented tenderness from his wife, witnessing a side of her unknown to others. She possessed a remarkable feminine instinct, or perhaps she had unmet needs. After completely letting go, his wife's other side became even more charming. Fang Hao, though under the influence of alcohol, wasn't intoxicated. Moreover, returning from Chen Mei's place, he had enough time to sober up. Now, looking at his wife from a different perspective, even a different standpoint, treating her as if she were a stranger, a woman encountered after drinking, a normal, young, and vibrant woman, they met, and then followed their instincts. Fang Hao could see another side of his wife. Finally, in bed, his wife curled up against him like a gentle kitten, resting her head on Fang Hao's arm while he held her. Fang Hao asked, "Wife, you didn't answer me earlier. Have you betrayed me?" "No. Husband, I'm really tired, I want to sleep." Su Ro, lying on her side, gently bit her lip. "Honey, I'm serious. If you have another man outside, tell me. If you love him, I'll let you go. But if you secretly date him behind my back, I'll be very angry. I might even fight him. Is there someone?" Fang Hao asked again. "No, I only have you, husband. I only love you, you're my only man." Su Ro rolled over, closed her eyes, yawned, and covered Fang Hao's mouth with her fingers, saying, "I'm really sleepy. Stop talking, let's sleep." "The only man? Then, whose child is Jia Jia? Do you really think I'm a fool?" "Su Ro, I gave you a chance, if you don't confess, be ready for a divorce." Fang Hao felt bitter and cynical. A woman who cheats, why is her mouth so stubborn? Does it make any sense? "Su Ro, I really don't understand what kind of woman you are. Do you really think you're a queen of the sea, able to control everything? As long as you walk by the river, sooner or later, your shoes will get wet." After a second round, Fang Hao was exhausted. He felt mentally tired, so he didn't waste words anymore. Waking up at dawn, Fang Hao opened his eyes to find his wife missing. Checking the time, he realized it was already 9 o'clock. Going to the dining room, he found breakfast with a note on top, "Husband, call me when you wake up." "Husband?" She called me husband again? Did she also do the housework? Fang Hao remembered that 2 days ago, after discovering evidence of his wife's affair, he had a drink, and then they were intimate. The next day, his wife obediently called him husband, made breakfast, and tidied everything up, behaving like an ideal wife and mother. But when he came back from work, he found his wife had returned to her usual self, addressing him by name and not doing anything at home, just playing with her phone. Last night, after their intimate encounter, she transformed into a dutiful wife and mother again. Could it be that he had awakened some dormant abilities in her through their intimate moments? Yes, that must be it. This beautiful woman must have been proud and arrogant, so he needed to conquer her in a certain way to make her show her gentle side. Damn it, did I win her over with this? What about that adulterer? Did he also use the same strategy? Fang Hao thought that it probably wasn't the case. If the adulterer could really perform like he did last night, would his wife have the energy to come home afterward? Also, if his wife had been conquered for 4 years, she would have divorced him long ago and thrown herself into the arms of that man. On the other hand, he felt that his wife's other side from last night wouldn't appear regularly, otherwise, it wouldn't have been so intense. If not through intimate means, did that scumbag have power or money? Fang Hao, thinking about this, felt a sense of despair. He seemed to be trapped in a doctor-patient relationship, and he might even lose his job. No power, no money, only the capital of being a man. Wasn't he just a sitting duck? Damn it, how could a man like me do something that sells dignity? Fang Hao took a moment to calm his emotions before calling his wife. "Husband, you're awake. Did you see the breakfast I made? Have some millet porridge, I added some ginger to soothe your stomach." His wife answered quickly, expressing concern, making Fang Hao somewhat confused. At this moment, his wife seemed genuinely in love with him. If she truly loved him, why cheat? This messed up reality. Got it. I'll leave in a bit. You, take care of yourself too. Yeah, husband, drive safely. Love you. Fang Hao hung up the phone, had breakfast, tidied up, and then remembered the matter of Zheng Quan's hair. He let the 2 little ones go to Rueli's house next door for a while and hurried to the identification center. There were some senior brothers and alumni of his at the identification center. He offered them some benefits to use their positions for an identification. Because of the benefits, his senior brothers and alumni didn't ask many questions. After all, in their center, many people secretly came for paternity testing through gray channels. Paternity testing had 3 result delivery time frames. The fastest was on the same day, but it had a higher possibility of errors and was the most expensive. The second option was a 3-day result, with medium fees and reasonably accurate results. The last option was a 7-day result, the cheapest, and the most accurate. Courts preferred this kind of identification result. As Fang Hao planned to stay home for a few days, he chose the third option. On the way home, Chen Mei called. Fang Hao rejected the call and didn't respond to her message. A woman who flirts with you in front of her fiancé at her wedding night isn't a good person. Faced with such a woman, it's better to keep a distance. The phone rang again, Suro's call this time. Fang Hao answered, and conveniently, there were car horns in the background. "Dear, did you leave yet?" his wife asked. "Not yet. I remembered I forgot to buy something. I came out for a moment. I'll pick up the kids and leave." "Oh, Chen Mei contacted me just now. She still wants to seduce me. This woman isn't a good person, you should avoid her." "I understand. Dear, you're driving, I won't keep you. Take care." Fang Hao noticed that the call was hung up. He went to a nearby supermarket, bought something randomly, and returned home. He bought some fruits for Rueli as a thank you. Rueli insisted on declining, stuffed the bag into Fang Hao's hand, and then grabbed his hand. In the process, she applied too much force, and her body fell onto Fang Hao's. Fang Hao went to help her, and inadvertently touched the fullness of Rueli's body. It felt like water. He shivered and quickly let go. "Sorry. It's okay." Rueli brushed her side-swept bangs, her cheeks heating up. Chapter 17, Give Me Some Dignity. This was just a small episode, and Fang Hao didn't turn into a beast, didn't do anything disgraceful. Once again, he held on to himself, not betraying his family and marriage. With the children in tow, he left the bustling city and returned to his hometown, which was 200 kilometers away. It was a mountain village, and despite some people building modern houses, the overall development was low, surrounded by clear mountains and flowing water. Fang Hao's ancestral home was deeper into the village, closer to the big mountain ditch. The 2 elderly people were in their 60s, their bodies marked by the years of hard work. Yet, they both had a kind appearance. Their home was a 2-story small villa, still looking relatively new. When Fang Hao first brought Suro to the village, it was a simple brick antile house. When he mentioned discussing marriage with his parents, Fang's father decided to build a new house. At that time, they had used up a considerable amount of savings to support Fang Hao's education. Just after Fang Hao graduated and had no stable income, building a house was a significant undertaking. Suro, upon learning about this, took out the New Year's money her parents gave her, and even offered to ask her parents for money. However, Fang's father refused to take the money. Instead, he borrowed from relatives and neighbors, even taking some project funds in advance, managing to build the new house and holding Fang Hao's wedding. In the following 3 to 4 years, Fang Hao used most of his salary to repay the debts at home. Consequently, he had little savings. This was why he chose to work night shifts, to earn more money. This situation seemed to have given Suro and her lover time and space to be together. These connections seemed intricately woven, difficult to untangle. Fang Hao sighed inwardly. This was fate. Now, what comforted him was that the house wasn't built with Suro's money, otherwise, he would feel even more pathetic. Seeing his parents, Fang Hao temporarily put aside the messy affair of his wife's infidelity, busying himself with greetings and carrying things. However, his parents were still anticipating someone else getting off the car, hoping for one more person. Fang Hao explained, Xiaoro is busy with work and couldn't take time off. Otherwise, she would have come with us. He could clearly see the disappointment in his parents' eyes when they didn't see their daughter-in-law. His heart tightened. How could he tell his parents that Jia wasn't his child, and Suro didn't love him? Would his parents accept this blow? If they couldn't, what would be the consequences? He had seen many middle-aged men, upon learning their wives cheated, having heart attacks. It was even more true for elderly people. The impact on them would be severe. Sighing, he decided not to tell his parents. Thinking it over, he sent a message to Suro, and soon received a WeChat video call. She said she wanted to talk to his parents. Fang Hao handed the phone to his parents, and the visible relief on their faces when they saw their daughter-in-law was genuine. Seeing their daughter-in-law, the worries on their faces diminished significantly. They chatted and laughed on WeChat, with the twins playing around beside them. It was a beautiful family scene. Yet, in reality, all of this was built on a lie, a bubble that would burst with a single prick. Fang Hao couldn't bear to watch this scene and went to move things around. After dinner, the two little ones played with their grandmother for a while and eventually fell asleep. Fang Hao and his father sat outside the courtyard, burning mosquito coils, boiling local tea, chatting idly. The neighbors' elders also joined, smoking and drinking tea, talking about this and that. The night in the countryside was dim, quiet, and peaceful, far from the hustle and bustle of the world. The next day, with gifts in hand, Fang Hao visited relatives in the village to strengthen family ties. In the evening, he enjoyed drinks and casual conversations with the elders in the village, feeling relaxed without the pressures of the big city, medical disputes, or the distress of his wife's infidelity. Observing Fang Hao going to bed, his mother tucked in the little ones under mosquito nets and then approached his father's room. She said, "Howsy has been drinking for 2 consecutive nights, 1 or 2 caddies each time. Is something bothering him? This kid can hold his liquor. I used to think he couldn't handle it, but now it seems he's a wine barrel. With this capacity, he can do well in the city." His father, puffing on the cigarette his son gave him, felt quite content. He rarely shared this particular brand with others, he saved it for himself in the secrecy of their home. His mother asked, "Do you think Howsy might be in trouble? Normally, when he comes back, he can't stop talking about Shero. But since he returned, he hasn't mentioned her voluntarily. Do you think they might be having issues? Or maybe Howsy is being unfaithful, seeing someone else outside? If this kid dares to do something that disrespects Shero, I'll break his legs. One slap doesn't make a sound. Don't scare him. Besides, with your old arms and legs, do you think you can still beat him up? You're not young anymore. Enough, stop showing off. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Shero is such a good girl, if Howsy doesn't cherish her, I won't spare him." Fang Hao finished visiting relatives in the village and then went to the county town to reconnect with old friends from middle and high school. For 2 consecutive days, they indulged in various activities. On this day, he was having tea with his closest buddy. Seeing only his friend come over without his wife, Fang Hao asked, "Where's your wife? You married the class flower and left her at home? Last night, it was fine not bringing her out for drinks, but now, during tea, it's just us, the best of friends, and you don't bring her? Don't force me to storm into your house." His buddy gave a wry smile and said, I got a divorce." Fang Hao was taken aback, and the tea almost spilled. Staring at his friend, he noticed that the entire person seemed much weaker, lacking the previous vigor. He said, "What? You two were childhood sweethearts, not even 10 years, but 7 or 8, and you have a company, money, and a house. How did you end up divorcing?" "Howsy, don't ask about the details. Just give me a bit of dignity." "Alright, I won't ask, but I can't just ignore it. If you don't tell me, I'll go find your wife, ex-wife. I want to hear what she has to say. Damn it, my best friend is going through this, and I'm supposed to turn a blind eye? Where is she? I gave her the house and the car. She should be at that home. Not sure. If you want to find her, go ahead, but don't try to persuade her to reconcile with me. Otherwise, we can't be friends." His friend's words were firm, leaving Fang Hao unsure how to respond. He knew his friend was serious. He said, "Alright, let's not talk about women or anything else, just drink tea." Thinking about his own situation, Fang Hao realized he wasn't in a much better place. Divorce seemed inevitable. Damn this harsh reality. Chapter 18, Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law tells people that when you worry that something will go wrong, the probability of it going wrong increases significantly. As Fang Hao looked at his friend in front of him, he suddenly remembered this law. Initially, he found this law mystical and hard to comprehend because, as a doctor, he always hoped for things to turn out for the better. However, recent events, such as the paternity test revealing he wasn't the biological father of his daughter, indicating his wife's infidelity, made him rethink. Reflecting on the past 4 years, he realized the time and space for his wife's affair were too extensive. He found himself lacking in various aspects compared to Su Ro, feeling miserable. Additionally, he faced the hospital's handling of the incident involving Li Wei's outburst towards a patient, and he was currently under investigation. As he began to gather evidence of his wife's affair and delved into the events of their wedding night, encountering Chen Mei, witnessing the handshake between his wife and Zhang Quan with circles drawn on his wife's hip, and almost falling for Chen Mei himself, he found that his encounters were all somehow related to these situations. Murphy's Law was terrifying. Fang Hao didn't know how to comfort his friend. They remained silent for a while and then parted ways. He eventually went to visit his friend's ex-wife, the class flower's home. Truth be told, he had a crush on the class flower back then, but since his friend and the class flower liked each other, he gracefully stepped aside to support his friend. The current class flower had lost the innocence she had in high school. Now, she appeared as a mature woman, looking somewhat weary and anxious. "Haozi, you've come at the right time. You need to have a good talk with Wei Wen. I still want to be with him," the class flower said as soon as she saw Fang Hao, understanding his purpose without treating him as an outsider. "I just separated from Wei Wen, but he didn't tell me the reason for your divorce. So, I want to know what exactly happened between you two. Is it your problem or his?" Fang Hao asked straightforwardly. The class flower refused to speak, keeping her head down and sitting on the edge of the sofa, tightly holding the hem of her t-shirt with both hands, looking nervous and restrained. Fang Hao said, "I'm not a gossip, so if you can tell me, fine. If not, just treat me as someone who came for a cup of tea to see how you're doing. After all, the three of us used to share everything when we were young." The class flower remained silent, still unwilling to speak, her hands tightly clenching the hem of her shirt. Suddenly, Fang Hao asked, "Did you cheat on him, and he found out? Did he tell you?" The class flower raised her head abruptly, seeing Fang Hao's clear and somewhat bewildered eyes. She realized Fang Hao probably didn't know, otherwise, he would look down on her and be extremely contemptuous. She said, just once, and he found out." Just once? Fang Hao didn't expect that the class flower had really cheated. As a man who almost succumbed to infidelity, he knew the excitement involved. It was impossible to cheat just once, she must have done it many times. He asked, "How long ago was that?" "Half a year." The class flower's voice was very low. Fang Hao knew there was some disbelief in the class flower's words, making the affair sound less severe to persuade him to talk to his good friend. Human nature is inherently wicked. He said, "Is the other person better than Wei Wen?" "No, not as good as Wei Wen. I regret it now. I just want to get back to Wei Wen. I'm willing to do anything for him, and I won't betray him again." "Absolutely not. Haozi, Wei Wen will listen to you now. Please help me persuade him quickly." Unfortunately, men will never listen to advice when it comes to betrayal. Now, Suro and I are also getting divorced. No matter who tries to persuade us, it's useless. Once I make a decision, I won't change it. Fang Hao said, "The three of us have experienced the most innocent and simple times in our lives together, and the results today are beyond my imagination. Don't worry, I will talk to Wei Wen. When you were going through the divorce, why didn't anyone inform me? I wouldn't have let you go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the procedures. As long as the procedures aren't done, it can still be salvaged. This kind of thing is not honorable. None of us will tell anyone." The class flower lowered her head. "Okay, I understand. I'll go back and make another appointment with Wei Wen, have a good talk with him." Fang Hao bid farewell. Although this class flower was beautiful and one of his first loves, she turned out to be a disappointing woman who had cheated. Now, Fang Hao despised women who cheated. He called home, saying he wouldn't be back for dinner, as Wei Wen was getting a divorce, and he wanted to meet him. Fang Hao called Wei Wen, got his address, bought some drinks and food, and headed over. The class flower lived in a high-end district in the county, while Wei Wen currently resided in a rather ordinary community that his parents had left him. Upon entering Wei Wen's house, Fang Hao could clearly sense an unpleasant odor of smoke, alcohol, and instant noodles, not very welcoming. Venturing further in, he discovered several pitfalls, and Wei Wen was busy packing. "Damn, why are you here so soon?" "I haven't finished packing yet. You should leave and come back in an hour." "Forget it, we've been through thick and thin together. Who cares about a little mess?" Fang Hao found a clean spot, placed the drinks and food down, rolled up his sleeves, and helped Wei Wen tidy up. Half an hour later, the house looked much cleaner and tidier, and they began preparing dinner. 20 minutes later, a few dishes were served, the drinks were opened, and they lit up bad quality cigarettes. It felt like they had returned to the good old times. After 3 rounds of drinks, Fang Hao said, "To be blunt, your life isn't carefree. You either need to do something to keep busy, or go and beat up that vile woman, make her stay in the hospital for a month, ruin her appearance, and then start anew together. I'm just saying, not advising you to reconcile, but seeing how you're living is a real waste." He felt bitter inside because, soon, he would also be getting a divorce from Su Ro. In the future, his situation wouldn't be much better. The hospital hadn't resolved the doctor-patient relationship issue, and after the divorce, he couldn't live in that house, and the car would be useless too. By then, he would be a man with no job, no wife, and no house, a 3-in-1 individual. If he was beaten down, he might just rush into the street or jump from a high building to end it all. He raised his glass, a small 2-ounce portion, and downed it in one gulp. Wei Wen widened his eyes and also lifted his glass, finishing it. Suppressing the burn of the alcohol, Wei Wen said, "You called her a vile woman, yet you're suggesting those things. How vile is she?" Fang Hao casually asked, pouring more alcohol and drinking another cup. "Yeah, how vile is she? It's just the 2 of us here, so let me show you how vile she is. Remember our history teacher who taught us about the Mediterranean?" Wei Wen said with bitterness, downing another cup. Fang Hao's pupils contracted. He hadn't expected the class flower to cheat with a 70-year-old man, at least for half a year. He had a bad feeling, his wife wouldn't have similarly extreme tastes, would she? Chapter 19, What is she after? That old geezer. Damn it, why? Fang Hao cursed directly, pouring himself a strong drink. It wasn't until then that he understood why the class flower hesitated to speak. How could a woman of her age get involved with an old man and still have the audacity to face others? Had she lost her mind? Was she completely out of her senses to get involved with an old man, sexually? Was the old man even capable? If not, what was she after? Fang Hao couldn't comprehend it. Wei Wen said, "Don't ask why. I don't want to hear about her again, that vile woman. Despicable. Hao, one thing, don't mention reconciliation. We're just good brothers." Reconciliation? To hell with it. Let that vile woman go to hell with the old geezer. Fang Hao shouted, pouring more drinks and downing another. Wei Wen also drank, and they continued drinking until it was dark outside. Wei Wen, completely drunk, cried and laughed, creating a scene of deep anguish, finally falling into a deep sleep on the bed. Fang Hao cleaned up a bit, drank quite a bit of alcohol but wasn't drunk. However, he couldn't drive, so he decided to spend the night on the sofa. As he lay down, he thought that if he divorced, he still had a son, and he absolutely couldn't let himself be so despondent. Life had to go on, he needed to find another woman, live freely, and ensure that the vile woman wouldn't look down on him. He also pondered on the identity of the man with his wife. Could he also be an old man? What kind of person was he? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. From his wife's behavior that night, it appeared she hadn't been satisfied. If the man was old, he wouldn't be as vigorous as a young man. His wife was older, had given birth early, and was currently in her sexually active years. Another clue indicating the man might be older was the fact that after giving birth to the twins, she hadn't mentioned having more children. On the wedding night, that bastard came in, and the purpose might have been to get her pregnant. Thinking about it, if she believed the child belonged to that man, she would be more willing to conceive. Women, driven by their natural instincts, would leave a seed for a male they cherished. If the man were a young man, they would likely indulge in romantic affairs without getting pregnant. Fang Hao suddenly realized that the scoundrel might have a stable job, high social status, significant power, and was cunning. This naive Su Ro could be easily manipulated. Perhaps, the man was already married, and that's why he didn't mind Su Ro marrying a young man. After all, he controlled Su Ro emotionally, occupied her physically, and the rest was secondary. What an old scoundrel. Fang Hao felt incredibly stifled but also somewhat powerless. His wife was, in fact, a very intelligent woman, and the scoundrel was an old fox. Together, they had seamlessly deceived him. But, there's karma in this world. The wheels of justice turn slowly but grind exceedingly fine. Who could have imagined that he would do a paternity test, and now he knew Jia Jia wasn't his child? You deceived me for 4 years, can you still deceive me now? The longer the time, the more lies and loopholes there would be. At that time, I'll see how you explain yourselves. Vile woman. Damn it. Fang Hao's hatred soared, eager to expose that scoundrel. He felt it was close. He had been in the countryside for 4 or 5 days, and Su Ro was alone at home. She would likely go to her lover, or maybe he would come to her. Su Ro's car had a bug, and there were cameras at home. As long as that scoundrel showed up, I would definitely catch him. In addition, the identification of Zheng Quan should also be entering the final stage. I wonder what the result is like. In a daze, the doorbell rang. Fang Hao frowned and went to open the door, only to be greatly surprised. It was his wife, Su Ro. "Honey, I've come to take you home." "Oh, such a strong smell of alcohol. How much did you drink?" Su Ro smiled. Fang Hao rubbed his eyes, realizing that his wife was indeed there, and not a hallucination. He asked, "Why are you here? Weren't you in the city? How did you appear here in the middle of the night?" Su Ro replied, "I finished my work over there, so I came back to find you. Since I couldn't reach you on the phone, I came straight down. I arrived home this afternoon, and because I couldn't reach you on the phone, Dad went to ask your classmates. I went to another place called Qin Shan, Wei Wen's wife, and she said you might be here, so I came over." She had already entered the house, glanced at the bedroom, and saw only Wei Wen without any other woman. A certain worry flashed in her eyes. Fang Hao, seeing that his wife's explanation made sense, also left a note for Wei Wen and went home with his wife. Seeing that his wife drove a local car, he found it strange and asked, "Where did you get this car? Did you borrow it from someone?" Su Ro replied, "Our company has a headquarters in the city, and there is also a branch here. I took the company's car over in the afternoon. After arriving here and not being able to reach your phone, I temporarily used the branch's car. I'll return it to them tomorrow." As the deputy director of finance at the headquarters, Su Ro held considerable power. Borrowing a car from the branch was easily done. Fang Hao found this explanation reasonable and didn't question further. His wife asked, "Dad and Mom said you've been drinking a lot these days. Are you ignoring your health?" "Just socializing. I don't have much time when I come back. It's rare to get together with them." Fang Hao casually responded, thinking, "Su Ro, now I won't revolve everything around you like before. I'll live my own life, drink when I want to drink, smoke when I want to smoke, and do whatever I want." "Well, that makes sense. If you've been drinking, you shouldn't drive. If we don't stay at your friend's place, we can go to a hotel. Get a room? How about we go get one now?" "Oh, I didn't bring my ID. It's not far from home, and Dad and Mom must be waiting for us to go back." Su Ro didn't want to go to a hotel. Fang Hao just mentioned it casually and didn't insist on the idea of getting a hotel room. They quickly arrived home and found that their parents were still awake. Initially intending to scold Fang Hao, seeing that he had drunk quite a bit and Su Ro didn't say anything, they let Fang Hao off and asked him to take a bath and rest early. Entering the room, his wife slowly undressed in front of Fang Hao, revealing her exquisite figure. Fang Hao suddenly felt dry-mouthed and tongue-tied. Perhaps it was because it had been a few days or the effect of alcohol, his passion was also ignited. He went over and fulfilled his husband's duties to his wife. In the countryside, he cherished his wife very much. For a rural man to marry a beautiful woman from the city, it was a glorious achievement. He was the husband of this beautiful woman, and he had the right to do so. Chapter 20, Passionate Intimacy. After everything was done, Fang Hao didn't want to move, and his wife didn't either. His wife asked, "Darling, do you miss me? Am I good? What do you think?" As the passion subsided, Fang Hao gradually regained his sanity. His nose couldn't help but take a deep sniff. His wife said, "I changed my perfume. Do you like it? This perfume can make you men more confident. You were amazing just now. Darling, I love you so much." Fang Hao was stunned. He realized that he was still holding his wife, and the two of them were so in sync. With a physique neither fat nor thin, he thought, could it be the effect of the perfume? His wife's tenderness made him enjoy the moment, as long as he didn't think about his wife's lover. As long as he didn't think, his wife, this beautiful woman, was the best stimulus. He said, Wei Wen and Qin Shan got divorced because Qin Shan had an affair with a 70-year-old man. He could feel his wife trembling slightly when she heard about the affair with a 70-year-old man. Then she tightened her grip on his arm. Fang Hao asked, "Don't you believe it?" His wife said, "It's not that. If they got divorced, it should be true. As a woman, what do you think she was after with such an old man?" "How would I know? Darling, it's getting late. Let's go to sleep." His wife didn't want to talk anymore and didn't let Fang Hao go. They stayed intimately connected. Fang Hao was tired, his mind like mush, and he didn't want to think anymore. He just fell asleep like that. The next day, when Fang Hao and Su Ro woke up, they found it was already past 9 o'clock. Fang Hao went downstairs to check and found that his parents and the kids were not at home. But there was a note saying they had taken the children to the amusement park in town. He came back to the bedroom and went into the bathroom. He said, "Mom and Dad took the kids to the amusement park in town. They might not be back for a while. Mom and Dad knew you had been drinking. I also need to take care of you, and you probably didn't sleep well, so I didn't wake you up early. Look at you, drinking has messed things up." Although his wife said this, she actively came over to bathe Fang Hao. After that, Fang Hao couldn't help himself and went for another round. After finishing, Fang Hao scolded himself. On the one hand, he was thinking about divorce, and on the other hand, he felt his wife was dirty. But how did it end up being so passionate and intimate? Until he had evidence, he couldn't act too cold or obvious, otherwise, the scumbag wouldn't come out, and he wouldn't be able to take revenge. This was also the hometown. If the couple weren't intimate, becoming distant, the parents would notice. He had to endure his humiliation, he couldn't let his parents share it. Fang Hao comforted himself this way. Before noon, Fang Hao and his wife went to the county seat. Fang Hao went to pick up the car and then visited Wei Wen. Seeing that Wei Wen was in much better condition, he felt somewhat relieved. After that, he went to pick up his wife, returned to the town, and went home with his parents and the kids. This time, Fang Hao didn't go out to roam, he just lay at home. In the afternoon, his wife came over again, and Fang Hao couldn't resist, so they had another round. He found it strange. On average, over 4 years, it was only 4 or 5 times a month. But last night, his wife came over 4 times. Wasn't his wife repulsed by him anymore? Suddenly, he remembered something and said, "We didn't take any precautions. What if you get pregnant? I should be in my safe period." But during dinner, Mom asked if I wanted another child, and I said it depends on fate. If it really happens, I'll give birth. Don't give birth. You're busy with work, and I am too. We won't be able to take care of it. My parents and yours won't come to live with us. If you really get pregnant, how will we manage? Fang Hao resisted, because he didn't want to endure the humiliation again if the child wasn't his. The presence of Yue Xia had made him happy to be a father for 3 or 4 years, and he didn't want to endure such humiliation again. It's my safe period. It's not that easy to get pregnant. His wife said and cuddled up to Fang Hao like a gentle little cat. After sleeping for 2 or 3 hours, Fang Hao woke up and found his wife sound asleep. He stared at her beautiful face, lost in thought. "Su Ro, what kind of person are you? Why did you have an affair? If you hadn't, we could have been so happy together. Regrettably, you had an affair." Fang Hao turned his head and saw his wife's phone and his own hand side by side. He thought for a moment, then picked up the phone and used his wife's fingerprint to unlock it. He entered his wife's text messages, mostly work-related content with no interactions with a lover. On social media apps like WeChat, there was no trace of conversation with a lover. From the phone's perspective, everything seemed clean. If he hadn't seen Jia Jia's paternity test, he still wouldn't have believed that his wife had an affair. Having an affair without engaging in hot conversations with a lover didn't make sense. He put down the phone and suddenly thought of something. His wife's phone had dual SIM cards. Could there be another card? He went into the settings and found only one card inside. Could she have another phone? Fang Hao checked the messages again and noticed that his wife had few interactions with her close friend. There were also no remnants on social media. He recalled a few days ago when he saw his wife messaging someone on WeChat. The person was named Elephant Nose. He entered the contacts but didn't find this person. Deleted? Fang Hao looked at his wife, who was peacefully sleeping beside him. He felt a bit trance-like. His wife was just a college graduate with an average education, but she was incredibly intelligent. Being the deputy director of finance in a conglomerate for several years without any mistakes showed her cautious and shrewd nature. Fang Hao returned empty-handed and couldn't fall back asleep. In fact, the paternity test was enough evidence that his wife had an affair, and he could get a divorce. However, if his wife didn't reveal who the scumbag was, he would remain clueless. Suddenly, a very evil thought flashed through his mind. What if Jia Jia fell seriously ill, preferably with a severe bone marrow or blood disease? During the data collection, they would need the biological father's blood and bone marrow, which might force his wife to reveal Jiajia's biological father. Human nature is inherently wicked. Fang Hao quickly dismissed this thought. He was a normal person and couldn't become malicious for the sake of revenge. That would mean losing himself. Jiajia was innocent. They had lived together for 3 years, raising the child together. Even if the child wasn't his biologically, their bond was as strong as a biological connection. He couldn't bring himself to harm Jiajia. Moreover, there was a risk. What if his wife, in such a life-and-death situation, still refused to betray her lover? She might sacrifice her own reputation and fortune to protect the lover. This was entirely possible. If the lover could manipulate the intelligent and cautious Su Ro, he must be deeply entrenched in her heart, or he was an expert at playing with people's emotions.